Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, hi, my name is Onyinye and I'm a trans and lesbian fibre artist who also has a lot of hobbies. First of all, I want to say thank you so much to everyone who enjoyed and commented on my last video. It's really appreciated, and I like being able to connect with you guys in the comments, so it makes me happy. For today's knit and talk video, I'm going to be working on a jumper for myself. This jumper is actually made using the same pattern that I used for the first jumper that I ever knitted. So I'm making it again because I really like the fit of it, even though my first project had loads of mistakes. It's getting colder, so I'm hurrying to try and finish this. I'm officially halfway through my half marathon training, which feels really crazy to say, though by the time you guys are watching this, I will have just finished week 11 out of 16, so even further along. The time has gone by so fast, which is both terrifying and exciting. By the way, if you haven't watched one of my previous videos, which is about running the half marathon to fundraise for my top surgery, I'd advise you go and watch that now. My donation link for the campaign is in the description below, and I would really appreciate any contributions because I really want to reach my goal by the end of this year so I can get my surgery. So this has been a really interesting journey for me. Obviously, because it's my first half marathon, I picked this sort of event for my campaign because I already enjoyed running and I kind of just wanted to push myself further. I've never trained for anything like this before or run this far before, and I've also never done like a race, so this is a really big first for me. But the other reason that it's been so interesting is because I've learned a lot more than just how to run further. There's been some unexpected life lessons along the way, as there usually seems to be when you try new things. So I just wanted to talk about some of the things that this journey has taught me. The first thing that training has taught me is that bad runs are inevitable. I really debated over starting with such a negative thing over a positive thing, but then I thought to myself, if I'm talking about something that will happen no matter what, I can probably start thinking of it as more of a neutral occurrence than a bad one. Going into this training, I'd say that I was pretty realistic with my expectations. I knew that I was trying something new and that it was going to be hard to adapt. I knew that just because I was training for a race, it didn't mean that running would suddenly be easier. I'm a pretty slow runner as well, and I knew that I wouldn't just magically drop 2 minutes per kilometer just because I was training for a race. I knew that I was going to improve with each run, but improvement comes from working hard and pushing yourself at the times where it's difficult and uncomfortable. And the improvement that you see is gradual and within reasonable measures. So I had pretty reasonable expectations that the runs would be hard, but I would get better because of it. But I think a part of me still thought that I would get to a point of fitness or running skill where every run would go how I wanted it to, even if it was hard. And that felt like a realistic expectation, but talking about it now, it doesn't anymore. Bad runs happen. They can be influenced by what's going on in your life, by hormones, by stress, or they can happen just because. This idea that running is sometimes hard, but you can always get through it as long as you get past the mental aspect, was definitely one that comforted me because it made me feel like I was in control. If a run is really sucking or dragging out, then all I have to do is focus on a podcast or some music and just reassure myself over and over that my body could do it, but it was just mentally hard. And I still have runs like that. And if you're watching this and you run, that mindset might work for you 100% of the time, and that's fine. But for me, it's been more like 90%. The other 10% are runs where no matter how hard I grit my teeth, all the techniques that I employed to make me forget the fact that I was running, I just couldn't do it. And for me, it's just been far more beneficial to accept those runs as part of the game, rather than to analyze whether I tried hard enough or if there was anything else I could have done to make it go right. It's been better for me to accept that sometimes the outcome is just out of my control. Bad runs like that aren't linked to ability or motivation. They just happen sometimes. So I just take them in my stride, knowing that it doesn't undo my progress or cancel out all the other runs that have gone great. And that leads me to the second thing that my training has taught me, which is that having compassion for myself, especially now, is so important. I'm here training for 3 months to run the longest distance that I've ever ran in my life. I'm waking up early before work and going out in the cold and running when a lot of the time I'd rather just be in bed. It's already taxing to get up and out there to push myself physically and mentally every week. And I only stand to make it harder if I'm harsh on myself. And I think particularly for me, when I commit to a task or a goal, I put my all into it. I expect a lot from myself, and it's really easy to be harsh on myself when I fall short of those expectations, even by a little bit. Because I'm showing up every week and trying really hard in my runs, it feels like the result has to be perfect too. It feels like the result needs to be perfect too. And if it isn't, it feels like I'm putting all of my efforts to waste. And you would think that that mindset would help me get the result that I want, but the truth is perfection isn't attainable. Every time that I try to aim for perfection, I'm just setting myself up for failure. If I see that I'm not hitting the paces that I want, or I'm having to stop when I don't want to, it begins to feel like, well, what's the point? I'm trying so hard and I'm still not getting to where I want to be. I start to dread my runs because I know that at the end of it, I'll always be disappointed with how I've done. And then that only makes it harder for me to get out there. That all or nothing mindset only serves to make me feel like all of my efforts are worth nothing. But the truth is, I'm working so hard. I'm pushing my mental and physical boundaries and teaching my body to run further and faster. I'm running distances that used to terrify the me that could only run 30 seconds at a time. I'm waking up anxious about running a distance and still doing it anyway. I don't know about anyone else, but I'm very guilty of often treating my body like a machine and then being disappointed when it doesn't perform like one. But over the weeks, I've learned to really be patient and compassionate with my body. I'm putting it through a lot and I'm definitely seeing improvements in my running. But if I'm unkind to myself when setbacks inevitably happen, then I'm only going to make it harder for me to show up the next time. Another thing that all or nothing mindset really sabotaged, that I'm slowly getting better at, is focusing on and celebrating the good runs. And again, that goes back to me treating myself like I'm a machine. Good runs end up being no big deal because that's how I should be doing anyway. But bad runs really stick out because they're a sign that something's wrong or I can't do this. When the reality is, not only are the majority of my runs good runs, but there's nothing average or normal about them. Like I said, I've improved so much. I was never a distance runner. Growing up, I loved sprints and I've always loved sports and been very athletic, but I really couldn't run further than 30, maybe 40 seconds at a time. Distances was always something that I hated. And I think at some point I just believed that it wasn't something that I could do. But I've put in the time and the effort to get better, no matter how hard it's been. When I say it like that, suddenly it doesn't seem like something to just sweep to the side and dismiss. It's actually pretty cool. And now I have gone on multiple runs that are over an hour long. And now I've gone on multiple runs that are an hour and a half long. I've put in a lot of work and I'm continuing to put in that work. So it's really important that I celebrate that. My girlfriend always says that whenever I achieve something, no matter how big or small, I'm happy about it for like a day before I move on to the next thing and start planning for my next goal. And I mean, it's great to be a driven person, but I definitely need to work on celebrating my wins more. And training for a race, something that really terrifies me, has made it an absolute. Because it's actually exhausting and difficult to find the reason to keep putting yourself through something hard if all you ever see are your failures. It just feels like it's not worth it. So if I want the drive to be able to show up and give my all to my 15-kilometer run next week, which, by the way, is the longest I will have ever run by 3 kilometers. I'll have to look back and celebrate the 11-kilometer run that I wanted to take the bus home for, but didn't, or the interval run that I did after 2 weeks off that I was sure was going to go badly, but actually went amazing. I'm not a machine that will just keep going and keep going. I'm a human being, and I need to see that my hard work is paying off, which means that I have to focus on the good more than the bad. The final and the most important thing that I've learned is to always keep in mind the reason why I'm doing all this, to remember my whys. This is really hard, like I've said so many times. Every week I'm having to look my boundaries in the eye and still push them. Okay, that sounds so dramatic, but you get what I mean. I have to continually confront my limits and distances and runs that I know are going to be physically challenging for me, and then still do them anyway. And for me, there's the added fact that I'm documenting my training and exposing some of my struggles to other people. It really is a lot. And with that boundary pushing, there comes self-doubt, self-criticism, anxiety, all very strong and all-consuming emotions. So it's so important for me to not get lost in them and swallowed up by them. I'm training for and ultimately running this half marathon to fundraise for my top surgery. Getting this surgery is going to change my life in an immense way. It means feeling more comfortable in my body and confident in what people see when they look at me. It means pushing myself out of my comfort zone and asking for help, not just once, but over and over and over again, and for it to actually go right. I picked this type of fundraiser because I love sports, I love being active, and before I started training for it, I had already started running and was so surprised by how I could go from running 30 seconds, walking 2 minutes, to running 12 kilometers. I was really excited to push myself to train for the half marathon because ultimately I knew I could do it. I know that I can run that distance, so I thought that it would be fun to go on this journey of getting there. I had pushed myself before with running, and I knew I could do it again. I love that feeling where I've worked so hard. I can feel all my muscles aching and I'm out of breath, but I've achieved exactly what I wanted to. I knew that the mental aspect would be hard too. I'm a perfectionist and I knew that that would get in the way, but I was excited to be in an environment where I could challenge that. An environment where I'd be pushing my mental and physical boundaries. Those are my whys, the reasons why I'm doing this. And in between the early wake-ups and grit teeth in the middle of really hard runs, it's surprisingly easy to forget them, but I've learned to continuously renew them, to keep reminding myself of them. It means that I can keep showing up and giving this my all. I remember saying at the beginning of my training, I hope I don't regret this. And so far I don't. Doing this has taught me a lot about myself and pushed me in ways that I didn't expect. I'm scared, but I'm excited to see what the second half of training has in store for me, especially as my runs are getting longer. If you'd like to follow along with my training runs, I post them on TikTok and Instagram. And again, the donation link for my campaign is in the description. Thank you for all donations. I'm still trying to find the right setup, like the right filming area in my new flat. So you might just see me in different positions around here as I just figure out what I like best. Feel free to let me know which area you prefer. By the way, let me know if any of you guys have ever run a marathon or half marathon or anything, or if you know anyone who has and you have any tips to share with me. I'm all ears and I would really appreciate them. But other than that, thank you for watching and I will see you in my next video. Bye.